we have behind us a surprisingly unique Ford Daytona coupe. The interesting thing about it, it is electrically powered. We also got a little surprise underneath the cover over here, and we have Peter Brock who's going to explain what that is. It's a surprise. I think you're going to really like it. So you'll see it there, did a little bit of a profile as a teaser. So today we're standing here with what appears to be a Ford Daytona coupe, which was designed and built in 1963. But it's my understanding as I look underneath the hood, unless that's a hell of a stereo amplifier, we have a unique power plant. Would you tell us a little bit about it?
Certainly, yeah. So I took a few liberties with the engineering on this one. This is a Factory 5 Type 65 coupe kit, and I built it up from the scratch with the intent of making it an electric drivetrain.
Right.
And so over the course of around 3 years, I sourced the 3 electric motors and about 2 Nissan Leafs worth of salvaged battery cells, and strung them all up and coupled them into the drivetrain. So that's the short of it.
Now, is these motors attached to the what would we normally think is a transmission, or no?
No. So it's 3 motors. They all share the same shaft.
Right.
And they are then joined to the shortest drive shaft you've ever seen.
Okay.
And that goes right into a Ford 9-inch.
Right.
That's 6.5 to 1 gear reduction.
Okay.
And that's it. So single speed.
What do you think the torque is on this?
It's 300 foot-pounds of torque to 5,000 RPM. So
wow.
Yeah,
and that's
it's
instant.
It's flat. It's a flat torque curve to 5,000 RPM. So, but yeah, it was designed with the ratio and everything,
right,
to be full torque, full beans to 60 miles an hour. So it's a 0 to 60 rocket. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
And then, but it will cruise at 60, and it's not.
Yeah.
Is it flat out by that time? Or
well,
no?
yes, it's 5,000 RPMs at 60 miles an hour, and it'll go up to in the 80s,
right,
and but it's getting pretty loud at that point because the RPMs are high. So,
right.
So it's a highway, but it's a 0 to 60 rocket. So,
right.
Yeah.
And tell us about the weight distribution as a result of this. How much does this weigh, say, if you had to compare it against the 351 Fords and whatnot that normally go in here?
Yeah. So I think when you build these up with a V8 crate motor, they end up being around 2,500 pounds.
Right.
And if you think about it, the V8 is 500 pounds and it sits right here.
Right.
And
right.
So I tucked all 3 electric motors, which is around 250 pounds,
right,
in the transmission tunnel, which is even further back. I put 200 pounds of batteries where the rear fuel tank was,
right,
and then around 300 pounds of batteries in the front here. So I'm a little over, but overall I'm at 3,000 pounds.
Right.
And just weighed it a week ago, and the split is like 43 front, 57 rear, which is almost what the originals were, but it's 500 pounds heavier. So,
right.
Yeah. So.
Right. But it's got more torque than the originals normally would have.
Probably.
Because the torque on the original gasoline-powered motors is going to change exponentially with the actual RPMs of what the motor is putting out.
Yeah. So it'll do 5 seconds to 0 to 60. I have it detuned to 70% because it'll spin the rear wheels at 50 miles an hour because the torque curve is just as high there as at 0. And so I detuned it so that I won't spin the rear tires going too fast.
A little bit safer.
Yeah. If I had more grip on the rear, I could probably get it down a little bit.
Yeah, what was your qualifications that first got you involved in this?
Well, I'm a mathematician by trade.
Okay.
But I've always been into cars and building things. So my hobbies were woodworking and metalworking. So it was a natural fit. So, but the real genesis was I was sitting underneath my Subaru and the power steering was leaking, the oil was leaking, and the radiator was leaking. I was like, there's got to be a better way. And
this is obviously it. Right.
So.
And most of this you built pretty much in your own facilities, right?
Yeah. Vegas Airbrushing did the paint, but I did everything else, including all the metal work and everything in order to adapt this insane drivetrain to it. But one of my hobbies is metalworking, so it was a natural fit. So.
I noticed in some of the sheet metal work here, you left all the insignias on it. We know exactly where you sourced your metal from.
Yeah.
Now, there's one question I must ask you. It has a radiator, it has a fan, and it has what looks like to be a water manifold.
Yeah.
And it has what looks to be a cap.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. What's that do?
Yeah, so there is one liquid cooling loop in it, and it uses that pure propylene glycol solution.
Okay.
But the way these electric cars work is you have your giant battery,
Right.
and then the battery then couples into these high-powered switching electronics, essentially,
right.
that convert the DC into three-phase AC.
Okay.
And that's what these big black boxes are right here.
Right.
And
Those are the converters.
Right. Those generate a little bit of heat, and they have a big old aluminum heat sink plate on the bottom,
Right.
and then I milled a Z channel
Right.
out of an even bigger piece of aluminum underneath it that the coolant loop snakes through.
Good.
So it sucks the heat off of the those converters that convert DC to AC. That's the only thing that's in the liquid cooling loop. The batteries are passively cooled. That's one of the design features of the Nissan battery cells. Right. And then the motors are air cooled. They're AC synchronous motors, and they suck in a crap ton of air and cool themselves. So
Through the tunnel.
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a little secret. Peter Brock in his car that he has is very similar to that. It had a LS7 Chevrolet aluminum block motor in it. And what he did is he put a big fan underneath the oil pan.
No way.
That sucks all the engine heat down and out. And of course, as like with your vehicle, the bottom of it is pretty flat.
Yeah.
And so as a result, it creates a nice ground effects type thing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, you kind of share those brilliances in engineering. Well, it's been fun talking to you, and it's a great car.
Yeah.
Again, this is John from Headlights and Tailpipes. We'll bring you back another wonderful interview.